Hello and welcome back. This time we're going to talk about policies, procedures, and guidelines. I just want to make sure that I have a dedicated video talking about these concepts because they're very important. And also, this will be a lengthy video, so I just want to warn you because there's just too much to it. And also, I just want to make sure that you really understand how important policies, procedures, and guidelines are, especially when you become a security GRC professional or an IT auditor or a cybersecurity auditor. You are going to be reading a lot of policies and procedures and even guidelines, a lot of documentation, a lot of regulations, understanding all of those. So basically, you're going to be surrounded with a lot of documentation. So again, very, very important. And even if you want to take cybersecurity security related certifications, you will also learn about policies, procedures, and guidelines because they will ask you relate questions related to these topics as well. So again, very, very important. So now let's begin with policies. Policies would be the organization's rules, standards, and expectations for employee conduct and decision making. A lot of times, we keep policies at a high level. As much as possible, we want to keep them short and sweet, but there are just times as well that they are going to be lengthy, and that is okay. But as long as you don't put all your details in the policies, again, keep it at a high level. All your details will be in the procedures, and we're going to talk about that later. But again, you just have to make sure that your policy is covering the basic processes, and you make sure that you also include the revisions of the policies, and also the divisions or the people involved, or even the committees that are involved in the preparation and approval of the policies. Also, you have to make sure that you are actually reviewing the policies every single year. And if you have let's say within the organization you have a technology or change, a major change in technology, yeah, the term there is major, a major change in technology or a major change in the implementation, you got to make sure that you review the policies and how that affects the policies and your current implementation, and you make sure that that is updated to cover your current process. And same thing, if there are changes to the regulations, you make sure that you include those changes as well in the policies, and you update your policies accordingly. And again, very important that you review the policies every single year. That is part also of the requirements from the regulations. So that is one thing that you are also going to be doing as a security GRC professional. And another thing is that you will also have to understand the policies and then ask the parties involved to actually attest to the policies. So not only that you are providing your own attestation to the policies, and you're now going to make sure that others are also going to be doing that. So you are going to coordinate with the parties involved. It doesn't have to be all the employees within the company. It would be different people depending on the policies. Because again, you will only have to make sure that only the parties involved are actually providing their attestations to the policies. So if that is a specific process, you only get those people actually involved in that process to attest to that policies. Make sure that they have read and understood the policies, and by attesting to that, they are saying that, okay, I am going to adhere to the policies, and otherwise I'm going to be held accountable for any kinds of violations. So that will be about the policies. And again, when we become a security GRC professional or an IT auditor or a cybersecurity auditor, we're going to be reviewing those policies and also the procedures. Those are the first two documentations that you are going to be looking at. So let's say you are going to be doing an assessment of the policies, making sure that, let's say, the IT department is compliant with what's written on one of our security or information security policies. Let's say remote access policy. You make sure that they are compliant, and then you read the policies, you ask questions, probing questions, so that you will understand their processes and the tools that they use, their current implementation, and to assess that or to assess if they're actually adhering to what's written on the policies. And if they're not, then you can recommend, you can write your recommendation, you can document what processes they currently have and what they do, and then you document that. And then if there's a discrepancy and if there's a violation, then you can also point that out and then provide recommendation so that they can improve the process. And you got to make sure as well, as a security GRC professional, you are going to be a partner to the process owners. You have to make sure that you understand their processes and the policies so that you can provide better recommendation to improve the process and to actually close any gaps that you may see. And we don't want the external auditors to actually see that. So you make sure that you see that first and then fix that. You cooperate and coordinate with them to address the risk before the external auditors would see that. So again, those are for the policies. Now we have procedures as well. Now this is where you're going to document all your detailed stuff. So for instance, there is a new employee, just got hired. How are you going to give that employee an access? So let's say the process would start from HR. HR would provide information about that new hire, and then HR would first submit a security request to IT, and then that would go to IT now, and then IT would create an account for that specific person, and then IT would start giving access, and then they would that could also go to another department that will start building the computer for that new hire and provide more access and whatever that might be. And then the process could go to specific divisions to provide that new employee access to specific applications and whatever that the new employee may need. So that could be the process. You make sure that you have to document all that as clear as possible and as detailed as possible, so that when auditors would look at that, they will say that, oh, okay, this is good, and they got it covered, and it looks sufficient, and we might not do any more testing. But if they see that, okay, this is really bad, it's it's not detailed enough, we don't understand what they're talking about, and they might go in and perform testing, and then they will see that you are not actually being compliant with your own policies and even the regulations, and now you're gonna get in trouble. So we just don't want that to happen. So just make sure that everything is documented, your processes, your step-by-step procedures, just document all that. Okay, so guidelines. Now guidelines would be the extra guidance that are provided either by your third-party vendor on how to use a certain product, a certain tool, or that could be provided by the for example, by the state, as far as the regulations and laws are concerned, so that you will know, and even the other security professionals in your organization, they will know how to interpret the a specific requirement. And let's say, for example, with payment card industry data security standard, they will also provide some guidelines on how you can actually interpret the requirements so that you can meet those requirements based on what they really want. And so again, guidance or guidelines, it's not like you are going to read a lot of that, but it's good to understand it, just again, to make sure that you are actually understanding what the external regulations and the external mandates, what they really want you to do. So yeah, this will be for policies, procedures, and guidelines. So we are gonna see more of those in the later videos. So just keep those concepts in your head and just remember all those three concepts. I will see you in the next video. Bye.